Hello, everyone around the world tuning in. How's it going? Great to be joining you guys for another live ecosystem chat. Today, we got a special guest, Julian, CEO and co-founder of Unifi Protocol. Julian's one of our fan favorites here, so it's good to welcome him back for another just session. We're going to talk about a lot of things, including the staking ecosystem on IoTeX, Unifi Protocol's new product called uStake, and we're just gonna cover a lot of other topics that are going on in crypto that are top of mind for Julian. Before we started this live, we were just talking about some concepts, so want to open up that forum to you guys as well. And finally, of course, you've been dropping your questions on Twitter, on Reddit, in the YouTube comments here. So at the end of this, we're going to be taking your live questions to talk about IoTeX or Unifi or crypto in general. So drop those questions throughout the chat. And let us know where you're tuning in from, right? It's always good to see all the different flags out there. We see Germany is in the house. We see Gopi for president. I'm not sure if Gopi's listening here, but yeah, without further ado, we want to welcome Julian here. And Julian's been, I think everyone in the crypto space has been grinding the past few months, but you guys especially we're making a lot of progress. So introduce yourself. And give us a little walkthrough about Unifi Protocol, and then we'll jump into uStake.
Cool. Yeah. Just to kind of give everyone a quick rundown on who we are and what's going on. My name is Julian. I'm the CEO of Unifi. We've been around for a bit. I think Larry and I have been talking since 2018, 2019. We've been pretty involved in the staking space. Kind of started out more or less as a community, and really took that off. And started to accumulate more developers, round out our space, our smart contract development, started to do a lot of cross-chain things, and started to expand to more blockchains. So when we came into 2021, we obviously got a token listing on Binance, and we started looking around at our partners. And IoTeX has been there since the beginning. It's been a very core partner for us. So what basically we're doing right now is we're offering a couple of different products out there, specifically on the DeFi space. We do have an AMM. We're doing some pretty unique things there. It's on IoTeX amongst some other blockchains. And we are now offering uStake, which is kind of an interesting take on staking. We allow staking on IoTeX amongst other blockchains, and we offer 100% rewards. So we're taking nothing off the top, and we actually have no intention to in the future. It's simply meant to be a kind of jumping off point to get into the conversation, to open up the discussion with the IoTeX community at large, and really push forward on what's important in governance, what's important in what is staking meant to be as a part of that ecosystem, and how can we take on a more active participant role in that ecosystem. So that's kind of what we're here for, and that's our goal. And coming into 2022, that's really the goal that we're going after here is, hey, we'd like to build up that awareness. We're trying to be a reliable community advocate in governance, and we're trying to do that on IoTeX.
Exactly. You're one of the OGs here as far as the companies we've been talking to, and it's really great to see you guys kind of joining the IoTeX Delegates program, right? For those that are kind of new to staking and the governance process on IoTeX, IoTeX has run our own in-house consensus mechanism. It's called roll depose, randomized delegated proof of stake. So delegated proof of stake, as some of you already may know, is the concept of token holders electing a congress of delegates that are eligible to mine blocks, right? So that voting process for us looks like token holders electing the top 36 delegates. And then every hour we randomly select, or rather the protocol randomly selects 24 of those top 36 delegates in order to participate in consensus, right? So right now there's upwards of 50, 60 delegates vying for these 36 spots. And it's great to see where you guys at right now. You guys are number 10 in
there you go.
short order, right? So We see Unifi Protocol here amongst some other big names like, Binance Staking, Blockfolio, CoinGecko. So really putting together a nice, not only a network of validator groups as it was in the past, but really people that are building and supporting exchanges and just supporting projects, not only running applications on IoTeX or bridging IoTeX to other blockchains, but also running their own kind of staking ecosystems as well, right? Yeah, Julian, so maybe share a little bit about your onboarding experience to become delegates in such a wide variety of networks, right? You guys are doing IoTeX, of course, Harmony, Icon, Ontology, Ethereum, and maybe forgetting a couple. But yeah, what's the scope of validators these days, especially in these proof of stake chains?
Yeah, I mean it's been interesting to see. I think at the beginning it was a pretty competitive space. People were kind of vying for how to operate a business as a validator, I suppose, like how to kind of run a company that kind of is a validator. And that's a great way to get that competition started. So we've seen that happen on a lot of different blockchains out there. But recently it's come more into, hey, the goal here is to secure the network. The goal is to keep a nice decentralized group of validators there so that if something happens, somebody can come in and replace them very, very quickly. They're incentivized to do so. And I think that's kind of been the evolution of the space. And I think going forward, I think we're going to see a lot of the incentives continue to pass down to the community side of things, to kind of very much incentivize people to stake, which is the best thing that they can do for their network. And from there, go ahead and secure a good, reputable validator. So, doing that is not something that happens over time. A reputation takes time to gain and build, and that's basically it. So, acting consistently, acting in governance when appropriate, being a consistent force there for your community has shown time and time again to really be the key part of operating a validator.
Yeah, absolutely. This is just some more on the Unifi uStake product, right? So this actually happened about a month ago, right? Where you guys kind of acquired Sesame Seed, who's a previous validator group or validator ecosystem, right? Like previous #1 super representative on Tron, and I think even active in like 2017, 2018 era, right? Which seems like pretty historic nowadays. Talk us through that journey about like why you decided to go more towards staking. Of course, there's like everything you said around like being closer with the network, helping to actually contribute work to the network in addition to building your own community, right? Talk us through that evolution.
Yeah, I mean, for those of you that don't know, we started in, we went live as a Reddit post. It was simply that. It was a call to action, a call to governance on Reddit. Hey guys, listen. We see that staking is going to start to open on new chains that did not happen yet. This was pre-staking, and we basically came out and said, "Hey, we're going to operate a governance node there. We're going to provide as much reward back as we possibly can." At that time, I think it was 80%, and that's it. It's vanilla. We're going to have clear and open dialogue, and we're going to push through on referendums and messages that you want to hear. And that was the basis that we built ourselves on. So we did that, as you said, on Tron. We became the largest super representative there before we expanded onto Ontology, to Harmony, and continuing on to IoTeX. And ultimately, we never took in funding. We never had a significant raise. We had a relatively small go live event in 2021 as a part of the Unifi token itself. But today we're sitting here with a team that's been doing this now for a few years together, been working together for a very long time, very much decentralized from our community, and we have no shareholders. We're an independent team here that's just looking to continue this method and this MO of decentralized governance. Meanwhile, obviously, we're developing smart contracts and some very cool use cases on those chains, trying to bring more value to the chains that we're on. But staking, I think, is a great entry point. It's a good way to demonstrate who you are. We're somebody that's here, that's been here for a long time. We're someone that is going to consistently deliver on what they're saying. And we're going to be a kind of stable point in this space.
Yeah, that's interesting, the evolution, because the journey's not finished yet, right? There's a very big 3-letter word in your bio here, right? And it's not CEO. That's a big 3-letter word too. I'm talking about DAO, right?
Yeah.
DAOs have really taken this world by storm starting the summer, right? A lot of investment DAOs and a lot of DAOs that are aping into buying NFTs, like the Wu-Tang album. I think that's such a great story for how these investment DAOs can work, right? But I think there's still a lot of things going on as far as using DAOs for coordination, using DAOs for governance, right? These kind of things are going to definitely be the model of the future. But what's driven you guys to take this next step to turn into a DAO? IoTeX is going through some process like this too, but what's next for you guys as far as that goes?
No, DAO is a great buzz. It's a buzzword, right? It very much is. Companies are getting huge investments just for being a DAO. We're seeing a lot of back and forth and some weird things going on. But ultimately, for us, the reason that a DAO is significant is for two key things. That's security and sustainability. And it's just safer to have your smart contracts controlled by a DAO. It's just more stable as a company to have it set up that way. And we've seen companies like, MakerDAI going up there and just go, oh, we don't need offices now.
Yeah.
This thing is like live. And the security that brings from, not just a regulatory perspective, when we look at the new infrastructure bill and things like that, but at the same time, the security on like, what about to update a parameter, things like that? It's just a huge point here. And I was in a pretty important conversation this week. We were talking about things like smart contracts being hacked. And there's very much this kind of consensus that a smart contract can't be hacked. It's not possible. It's just executing a function that it was designed to do in a creative way.
Yeah.
And that's kind of the MO of the crypto space. And I think a DAO is important because if you design your smart contracts correctly, if you allow for new integration of advancements and achievements to come in, and then you decentralize who can attach those, I think it allows the ecosystem to evolve and become more secure as you go, instead of being like locked into, oh, there's someone somewhere with a server and a key where something could potentially go wrong. Yeah. I feel like the DAO is a core part of our business, and though publicly on the public side, there are very few specific actions people can do. On the internal side for us, it's been a very core part of how we secure our own network.
Yeah, 100%. I think you explained it really well there. I think like DAOs from smart contracts from the tech perspective, right? The reason why people trust them is they're open source, right? The fact that they can't be hacked means that they could definitely be exploited, but all the rules are out there in the open, right? It's a fair, equal opportunity. Everyone knows the code. Anyone can exploit it. That's why having these bulletproof contracts is so paramount, right? But on the governance side of things, you're also kind of open sourcing the underlying communications, the decision-making criteria, and that is also open sourcing governance aspect of how these smart contracts are operated and utilized in real life, right? So it's really interesting, just making everything more transparent, like putting things out in the open. IoTeX is a big initiative to run these community DAOs and these governance DAOs as well. But also things like machine DAOs, right? Like how do we use devices like this Pebble tracker, which is coming very soon. Look how sleek that is.
It's pretty sick.
Yeah. How do we use these things as DAO participants as well, right? If all the rules about, do this in order to get this are established, then, not only are humans going to be participants of these DAOs, but machines and intelligent algorithms can even be part of these DAOs as well, right? It's really interesting.
So we've both been building in this space for, since 2017, right? So and I see a lot of companies going out there and they lay down these deep foundations, these like structural, we do this, and I see that happening again and again and again. And I go to these conferences and discussions, and that's what people are talking about. This is going to be our section of the crypto space, and you see that happening so often when the only certainty I see in the space today is change. Mm-hmm. So at the end of the day, in the last 3 years, like terms like DeFi came into existence, terms like NFTs didn't necessarily exist, and we're seeing more and more rapid change coming. And I feel like a DAO is one of these things where if it's designed simply and correctly, becomes a sustainable way to allow your ecosystem to grow and change over time. That Pebble tracker is actually a pretty sick idea because it kind of allows you to, prove that a transaction happened, or prove something like occurred. I'm super interested in seeing where that goes. Not a lot of people are pushing that way.
It's a new design space, right? What we're talking about here are, different types of design spaces, right? Where you have open source code, you have open source governance, you have, the ability now to bring new types of data into these blockchains. Just like you said, I think Pebble Tracker is like a proof of real world work, right? Regardless, we're so familiar with proof of work and proof of stake in the crypto context, but these are literally machines that are proving things to a blockchain. I have done this random puzzle so I could be a validator for Bitcoin, or I have deposited enough stake so I could be a validator for Ethereum, right? Or IoTeX. These are all proofs of something to a blockchain. If we could prove things about the real world to a blockchain, you can also establish candidacy to do a lot of different things, right? I think it's interesting what you mentioned also about like NFTs in the metaverse. So applying this like framework into thinking about Facebook and their impending metaverse name change, right? Maybe like, I think Web 2 metaverse is going to precede Web 3 metaverse, but it's ultimately going to be the Web 3 that wins out at the end of the day, right? Because the contracts are not open source and the governance is also opaque and not open source, right? So just like we're seeing Web 3 disrupt Web 2 in finance, what we're talking about is Web 3 eventually disrupting Web 2 in social, except now Web 2 has a Web 3 element of it, right? It's an interesting thing to think about. So
it's wild. Yeah, man, it's wild. And when I look at it, it's like we talk about, I think people confine these terms to very simple concepts. They confine the term of DeFi to like an AMM. They confine the term of NFT to like a piece of digital art. But it's not at all. Like it's not meant to be like such a simplified concept. And when you take a look at NFTs and that concept, we are not even close to aware of what's possible there. And when Bancor first came out with price discovery back in 2014, 2016, like it wasn't even popular. It wasn't cool. It wasn't cool at all. And now it's like DeFi. It's like that concept has just gone. And I feel we're at this is, NFTs are, this is 2016 for NFTs today, and where it goes in the next 4 years, 5 years, it won't even resemble what we've got today. But it's going to be a pretty interesting change, because you've basically got this concept of being able to secure interesting transactions and verifiably like segregate one transaction to a specific action, which you can put into that contract or make a part of that transaction. It's going to be so interesting to see in the future.
Yeah. I mean, as we get into Q4, where a lot of people are saying, a repeat of 2017, 2013, not to talk about price, but to talk more about like the mainstream recognition of what's going on in crypto, and also reaching certain thresholds that are kind of like cat's out of the bag type of thing, right? In the DeFi context, it's all about gathering enough liquidity. That's why everyone is about TVL, 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 right? Once you gather enough liquidity, then the collective bottoms up threshold of we have enough to do what we could have done from a top down perspective, but now in a decentralized way, DeFi is booming because of that, right? Same thing for a DAO, right? If you have enough collective perspectives about one specific issue, then now you have a self-sustaining DAO, right? And I guess from like IoTex's perspective, we think a lot about this from like a how do we make data important and valuable and usable perspective, right? It's only until we collect a statistically significant amount of data akin to an AMM collecting liquidity or a DAO collecting thoughts, right? Like this is really the foundation of what we're doing with blockchain. It's really building these things up from the bottoms up. But once they reach a certain threshold where it's like, okay, we can actually use this to build on top of or to fork into other things, is a really interesting phenomenon that's going on here.
I totally agree, and I feel like, just going back to my comment of the only certainty in this space is change. I feel like you can use that to basically, like, I like hate to play devil's advocate, but all it takes is one very creative person to go, oh, actually TVL isn't that important. We can do it with a single token. We can do like more there, and that's what's so like interesting is we're talking about like, Pebble tracker and cross-chain transactions, and we're seeing it take more and more transactions to basically validate something. But there's no reason that you can't use a single transaction and say, hey, this is the proof that it did occur on chain. Like me sending myself one token a week ago on IoTeX is certainly proof that transaction happened, because it's now in everybody's transaction hash or block header, I should say. So it's super interesting. I think there's a lot of room for creativity and kind of challenge the space itself. I'm looking forward to it.
Here's another buzzword, right? DeFi 2.0, right? I think it's funny, but it does categorize this new set of applications that are kind of redesigning what a lot of people already consider to be primitives, right? And this is kind of like the application infrastructure cycle, where we've built infrastructure or protocols that enable certain types of applications. And as these applications start to demand more out of infrastructure, then we have new protocols being written, like Unifi 1, Unifi 2, Unifi 3, even like different types of protocols for, a lot of layer ones
optimism, roll-ups, all kinds of stuff. Yeah,
exactly. So I mean, apps like Olympus, right? Like really redefining what liquidity means, or how you can gather and lock it in different perspectives. Like, what do you think about this DeFi 2.0? Like, a lot of it is still R&D, right? Can this work? Pitching very crazy ideas and kind of running with it, but some of them do stick, right? Some of them do work. Like, I think Olympus is still yet to be confirmed as long-term sustainable, but I mean, they're building something really interesting too.
Yeah, I guess it can go a few ways. It could go the direction of, cross-chain DeFi, which I think people are struggling with right now. That's a challenge, and it requires competitors to kind of collaborate. So I feel like that's kind of the current roadblock there. And then there's things that are being built on top of existing, DeFi infrastructure. And I think both of those are advancing now. Both of those are becoming more and more interesting.
Yeah.
So I think that you're right. I think that, in regards to DeFi 2.0, man, there's so many directions that we could go here, right? Just looking at, I think that DeFi 2.0 is going to be successful if it relies on, core changes to these, to AMM architecture or the lending architecture. I think we've seen we've seen definitively proven that lending platforms that rely on oracles are just honeypots. And we've seen routinely that AMMs built around maybe less than valuable token maybe is not as sustainable. And I feel like if we're talking about DeFi 2.0, if they build on those more shaky concepts, the concepts of oracles and the concepts of, these reward mining tokens that may not have the value, they're just going to faster and faster prove that that those aren't real changes. A real definitive change that's out there, Uniswap version 3.
Yeah.
That was freaking cool.
Yeah.
NFTs that secure, it's just such a cool concept. And it's like
Mhm.
a total relook. It takes every aggregator, every lender, everybody flips it on its head and said, oh, actually, you can't do yield farming now because the infrastructure that doesn't exist. And I think it's really cool to see that kind of thing happen. It's just neat to see innovation
type of things, right? I think that's super cool too. You have smart contracts. I mean, I think people laugh and scoff at these like 1.0, 2.0, 3.0 renamings, but just like following code release structure, these are step change upgrades, right? It's not just like a modification or a slightly different tokenomics model. Like it's not like a Uniswap to SushiSwap kind of fork plus add a new tokenomics thing. We're talking about rewriting these protocols from scratch so they do completely different things. It's happening in DeFi right now. It's also happening in NFTs. I'm not sure if you're seeing this like whole thing about INFTs, like intelligent NFTs, but they change form based on happenings that are pre-coded or even not pre-coded, right? Like develop like governance down the road. So I thought those type of things are really interesting from like the perspective of these like virtual customer support agents, right? Where you're talking about fractional ownership, you're talking about, evolving with new information. It's really interesting to see these step change type of things. A lot of them may flop and may not be like the definitive thing going forward, but that's really what everyone's shooting for. Like IoTeX, we want to be the step change real world data protocol, right? It's going to unlock things we are not even thinking about today. You guys from the cross-chain perspective, from the DeFi, liquidity, the swaps, two-way token swaps, cross-chain swaps. So this infrastructure is kind of compounding in a lot of different ways, right?
And it's going faster. And this will go faster because the space is starting to expand at a faster and faster rate. That brings in smarter, bigger developers, brings in bigger companies, and they go in and go, oh, nobody's done this yet. We'll just do that. And boom, like we're just on track to start seeing that change methodology accelerate. And so I think keeping an eye on what's happening, and when we look at DeFi 2.0, cross-chain solutions and things like that, we should be questioning it like, what is this based on? What did they take and expand on? What's the infrastructure they built this on top of? And is that infrastructure likely to change? Yeah. I feel like that's what's important.
For sure. No, we could go on and on, but I think let's open it up to the crowd a little bit. For everyone that's listening, drop your questions in the comments. I already see some in the live comments here. We're just going to go through all of them. Anandara Kaisa, sorry if I butchered that. How have you convinced people to be interested in your project? Do you take into account community feedback and demand? This is basically like the community side of things, right? So, Julian, I'm curious also from your perspective, right? You guys deal with a very multi-chain community. How do you guys go about that? Are they kind of separate communities per chain, or they're all kind of under the Unifi common denominator umbrella? But how do you go about managing and reinforcing your community?
Yeah, this has been tough, and this year has been a discovery. We're currently making some big changes. I'll talk about those in a second. But when it comes down to is when you have a community that's cross-chain like this, I think the standard approach is to say, hey, this is the whatever group, and they're mine, and I don't want them to interact with somebody that may be a competing entity. We take the opposite approach. I think that everyone wants to know what's going on out there. They don't want to be stuck inside of their room. They want to be exposed to other concepts and ideas. And we see it happening all the time. And I think that the fact that we do mix our IoTeX with our ontology and icon groups and put them all together in one room does make for a much more interesting dialogue. And it does allow people to say, why is it this way on that blockchain? Why does this happen that way when they could do it like this? And we start to see changes that permeate. I think when we first came to IoTeX, there were some pretty significant changes that came to us. And I like to think that there was some dialogue that did drive within the IoTeX community as well. Regarding the future, I think that community focus is going to be a big part of what we do. We've kind of spent this whole year focused on our own infrastructure. What that means is, tax, regulatory, legal, that kind of stuff. The not so fun stuff has been the focus of most of the team. And we actually just wrapped up we just had a developer summit in Madrid with most of the development team. And we've left that with, we're going to begin a pretty rapid expansion phase of our growth. So the plan is right now, we're tracking to hire a new person a week on the development and both the development and the marketing side. And a big focus of those two teams is going to be community development.
Yeah, 100%. I think it's
critical.
Getting to that stage where it's time to, it's almost cyclical, right? You launch some new features or products, and then you get people to engage and back and forth, right? For IoTeX, it's also very important for us to think about this community thing. A lot of the ambassador roles that we've had, it's always been the kind of foundation sitting in between purposefully to kind of connect the dots and enable these opportunities to happen. But taking the training wheels off and allowing the community and the ambassadors to really self-drive and self-govern, eventually leading towards this community DAO structure is something that's definitely on our minds as well. I think you're going to touch on this a little later, Julian, but maybe we could just squeeze this in here as, we're just going sequential with it. But what are your plans for Q4? Only less than or a little bit more than 2 months left. What's in the docket?
Like I said, we're pretty focused to hire on. We're very much increase our staffing throughout the rest of this year. So we're looking to hire on about 10 additional members here before the end of the year. That's a big piece of what we're trying to do. We are taking on some new positions in terms of marketing and working with some outside companies. And on the development side, we are trying to actually wrap up a development cycle on a lot of the things that we have now. So we have a ton of ongoing concepts with some additional blockchains, some upgrades to uStake here and there. But on top of that, there's some pretty significant products we're working on. We've been talking about bridge technology here for a year. It's and the funniest thing is we have operated a bridge since 2019 and we haven't in 2021. It's pretty funny. So, but it just shows you how difficult the problem is. So that's a big focus and continues to be, it's a target for this year. In addition to that, we have a lot of upgrades to our existing existing websites and uTrade, uStake, and some things that touch that as well. I don't want to spoil too much, but the focus now is to kind of wrap up those, because starting Q1 of 2022, we have a pretty big project we're going to be taking on, and I hope to kind of provide more information later in the year on what that is.
Yeah, it can't be understated how hard it is to hire in crypto right now either, right? I think with more people that are quitting their day jobs and jumping into crypto, it's becoming very competitive to find the right people, right? And hypercritical,
Yeah, and the funny thing is it's so easy to be decentralized, but to spend some time with the developer team in one room for a week was so impactful. To spend some time with the marketing team in one room was so impactful. I see that being a big piece of what we do in doing these kind of like routine check-ins. I think that's going to be a big part of this. We have prided ourselves on being very decentralized.
Same.
Virtually the entire team that we have comes from our Telegram or Twitter rooms, or Reddit. Virtually the entire team was once just an active person asking questions.
Right.
And the downside is it's kind of harder to build those personal relationships when you're that far apart.
Yeah, exactly. We're looking forward to doing some summits as well. Should be a good time.
Cool.
Next question is about Pebble Tracker from Joe. You guys don't know what Pebble Tracker is. This is it. You may have seen it in this developer form before, but this is like the nice sleek carrying case. It's powered on right now. It's got a screen on it. This is like the dev version. You see the guts of the device, right? But one really cool thing that we've been working on for Pebble Tracker, and maybe this will make it very obvious what it does, is this kind of device portal, right? Where you can go in and register all of your different devices like UCAMs, Pebble Trackers. We're doing a lot of stuff with Raspberry Pi and Arduino, which are more universal. You can buy them anywhere and start to hook them up to the IoTeX network, bring verifiable data to the chain, see the status of different devices of yours, interact with DApps directly from this portal. Some names there I shouldn't have shown, but and see all your data on a map, and for the purpose of using this as an asset tracker, right? But really, the goal of this Pebble Tracker device, for people that don't know about it, is to bring real world data to the blockchain so you can start to use it in different smart contracts. And it's very much, real world data oracle, right? I can use my GPS data. I went to a specific place at a specific time, and then I can claim an NFT or settle a payment. It's this brand new design space that Julian and I were talking about earlier, right? So custom hardware from IoTeX, available now, crowd supply. Let me see if I do not have a banner up for that, but I'll post a link up here shortly. Do we have a shop for t-shirts and such? Working on it. I know everyone wants one of my hoodies. I don't know if this is a limited edition. It's an NFT in itself, but we'll have some more coming up. Yeah, we need some hats, man. We need some hats for sure.
We're not selling our hats either. I'm just wearing.
Open up that store, but we promise it's coming, guys. We really want to get some merch and swag into your hands. But running a global e-commerce swag store is also non-trivial. We're definitely working on that. Joshua Jackson, maybe this is not really a question, but it's like an open, how projects are thinking about it. It's all about liquidity and TVL. How do we pump up those numbers? Like, there's a couple tried and true methodologies to do this. One is to give out a shit ton of incentives, like a lot of these layer ones are. But from an organic perspective, like, what sticks, Julian? Like, what's the way to achieve sustainable liquidity and TVL?
Oh man, that's tough, right?
Holy grail.
It's a tough question, man. I think a lot of things happen when people go the TVL route. They're worried about security, and I'd say people are more worried about impermanent loss than ever. I was just now talking to my team about this. You can have a pool, right, that is a positive APR, but maybe the impermanent loss can overcome that. And I think there's like not enough information in the space on how this works. So I think education is actually super important there. We've seen Pancake break the model and say, hey, we can give out a token that is just a token and just fuel it that way. We've seen that work. I do like the way Curve has done it. Curve has proven that, hey, stablecoins locked over a very long time at a secured rate. That works too. Yeah. Uniswap has been good because in the past, a lot of people have built on top of that structure. So they've had a lot of success there as well. I think that a big piece of it is becoming more and more, I think TVL is becoming more, and this is like so terrible, more and more centralized. Yeah. These big companies are coming in and making investments. Hedge funds and large firms are Galaxy Digital and companies like this. They're coming in and they're making huge investments in DeFi, and that's where a lot of the TVL actually comes from. So that takes us to some extent a sweetheart deal with the native currency. I think we've seen this with Uni recently to pluses and minuses, but I think that's a big piece. But going back to before, I think TVL is king right now. Liquidity is king right now. But I don't think that lasts forever. Like, it's been important to DeFi. I think a smart person or team will come up with very creative solutions around that. We've seen this happening in lending now, where people can write loans against things that maybe don't necessarily require as much TVL, and I'd be very interested to see where the DeFi space goes as a result. Sorry for the non-answer.
No. I definitely agree. It's hard to pinpoint anything. Is there's like multiple pools of liquidity that are really being built up, right? There's like the BlockFis of the world that are going straight institutional. There is the Aves and the Curves of the world, which are going straight decentralized. And there's like a really interesting middle ground of like not Web 2, but like TradFi brokers that are also dipping their feet into Web 3. People like Amber Group that are offering higher TVLs than you would see on like an Aave, but way less than you would see on like a Curve, right? Which has all these like, 3 letters before USD, like WSH dots USD. It's a derivative of a derivative of a derivative, and knowing how to play that game and navigate that game is something that's reserved for those like advanced DeFi farmers, like Amber like groups, right? So gap between retail and professional yield farmers is real. Do you know what I mean?
Okay. Yep. You're totally right. I've got a good hack.
Yeah.
I've got a good hack for TVL.
Mm-hmm.
What you do is you have a cross-chain token, right? And that way, when somebody deposits on one chain, you get to mint it on the other side. Therefore, you can mint tokens at value. So the more cross-chain that you do, the more synthetics that you can mint, the more free TVL that you get.
Yeah.
So then you just need,
right?
Then you just need one side of the pair. Yeah, we could do that. That's something that we've talked about. It's a great way to basically make TVL, because you think about it, right? If you swap, like think about it like this, right? I'm going to send a USDT from ETH to IoTeX, right? So that was $1 exists. Now I've locked it into a smart contract, and on IoTeX I've minted $1. $2 exists now.
Yeah,
you have made money. Like yes, it's secured by smart contract.
Maybe like $1.75 because it's like the LTV is 75 or something, right?
But my point is, a smart person could figure out a way to kind of make sure that all the value or most of it occurs on one side of that chain, and boom, free TVL.
That's true.
We're not doing this, but somebody should.
yeah. TVL bots, Flashbots sister company. No, that's awesome. Next question we got here. Anyone having issues using stake on Zoom Swap using IOPay? Yeah, we have fixed our API nodes. There's some delays in that. You should be able to use Zoom Swap perfectly. So I was trying to click on this question. Where do you see IoTeX in 5 years from now? We'd love to hear your perspective on this too, about like where the industry is going to look like in 5 years, Julian. But I think as far as IoTeX goes, like, to put it simply, right? I think there's an interesting partner of ours that wrote something beautiful on their website. It said, the future workforce of the world will be machines, right? I don't think anyone can, this is something that everyone agrees on, right? Automation, machines doing certain jobs better than humans. The real question is like, okay, if we agree on that fact, then who's going to own these machines and the value that comes from them, right? So I think in the next 5 years, you'll start to see a bigger split, a bigger dichotomy in centralized kind of devices and machines and centralized workforce versus decentralized workforce that's going to look more like the sharing economy and more like public goods and public utilities that anyone can tap into, just like smart contracts, right? These are open, permissionless software that anyone can use, open, permissionless hardware that anyone can use, either just whether it's to query data or request a service or, use as temporary bandwidth and storage and compute. When applied to things like, healthcare and vehicles, there's a lot of different use cases that are going to emerge first, centered around value creation and value exchange. But at the end of the day, it's really going to be about, how do we grab power from these centralized corporations and create a structure that isn't based on regulatory and slap on the wrist type of actions, but really transfer power from centralized and big tech to the people, right? Or to decentralized builders, right? It doesn't always have to be like individuals doing every single thing themselves, but having unbiased technologies that run more larger aspects of our lives. Definitely in 5 years, I would say even like 2-3 years, we're going to start to see a lot of crazy stuff, right? Like, how old is Black Mirror? I can't remember, but it's no more than 6 years old, right? 7 max.
I have
And
no idea, but yeah, it sounds about right.
5 years from now, like a lot of that shit is already coming to fruition. You know what I mean? Like social scores and VR, these type of things. So, what do you think, Julian? What's the next 5 years? Maybe from it doesn't have to be from a crypto view. It could just be
I
life in
mean,
general.
so Ledger's a great company. They're doing fantastic, but Fireblocks is new. And they're moving fast. They're moving so fast that we can already see chinks in the armor of what's happening there. And I think that it's a great example of what change and smart people coming in does to this space. At one time, I remember it. The industry was mostly Mt. Gox. Mt. Gox was everything. I haven't seen a Mt. Gox billboard in the last few years. For obvious reasons. I'm not gonna go, but yeah, Mt. Gox is gone. They were 4 times the size of what Binance is today relative to the space. 4 times, huge. They're gone. Bancorp basically invented DeFi.
Yeah,
Not as active now in the DeFi space. Not so much there. So in the last 3 years, we've seen giants completely disappear from the space. And that's going to continue to happen. So I think that what needs to happen is, we're talking about 5 years from now. I have no idea exactly what the space is going to look like, but I think more and more big companies are going to continue to enter the space. I think more and more intelligent people are going to start to build on this. There's going to be a lot more push towards some more centralized actions to occur on chain. Look at optimism and rollups and things like that are happening. But I think that ultimately, the answer that I have of where we're going to be in 5 years is here. We're going to be here. We are planning to be here. We have financially planned and structured our company to be here. We have built our business around being adaptable and more change oriented. So the only certainty I know about the business is we will be here, and we will be active, and we will continue to grow.
That's so important for everyone listening, right? Like, everyone is super excited about Q4, right? I'm not saying that anything's going to happen in Q4. History does repeat itself, crypto cyclical, blah, blah, blah. But, maybe it's too good to be true. Maybe it's not. We have no financial advice in this respect. But the fact that crypto will be here in 5 years means that the market cap is currently around 2 trillion. Raul Paul from he mentioned something around the market cap of crypto 5xing, 10xing from here conservatively. If you survive and are in crypto and are relevant in 5 years, then you're already kind of you've already proven yourself as a primitive that's long lasting, right? And carving out your specific niche, like, there's no chain that's going to do everything. I think this multi-chain future is for real now. But finding ways to service this growing ecosystem. A lot of times crypto is not about hype at all. It's about survival, right? Continuously, maybe what we're working on today isn't going to be relevant directly in 5 years, but being able to adapt and adjust and pivot and make yourself useful and evolve with the industry. This is what it's all about, right? So
yeah, dude.
Yeah.
I mean, we get a lot of we do get some criticism about this, that, hey, there's a target right here. Why do you miss that target? Like, the target's right in front of you. Just hit it. And they're like, we keep seeing you shoot and miss. And my answer is, we're not aiming at this target. We're aiming at the target 5 years away.
Right.
So, like, it's not as popular in this space because a lot of companies don't necessarily design themselves around that structure and building yourself to operate in that way, which is obviously the way that IoTeX has built themselves as well, means that you have to make decisions that have a potential future of blockchain in mind.
Yeah. We fundamentally believe in this one concept, right? That in the future, call it 5 years or 10 years, like, devices and machines, intelligent machines, are going to be the biggest users of blockchain, more than humans, right? Because devices are going to outnumber humans 10-1 in 5 years. And if you think about what humans' interactions with blockchains are, we process keystrokes and instructions and deliver that to the blockchain through machines. When machines are able to deliver their own instructions intelligently and progress workflows and progress DAOs, we're talking about automation as a concept, right? So DAOs may not require too much human intervention or like collective human intelligence, but collective device intelligence that act on behalf of humans, that maybe program goals into these machines and have self-executing smart contracts enforce those rules. This is the future that we believe in, right? In the meantime, there's a lot of stuff that we can do with our blockchain, and we're kind of like exploring that. But yeah, it's really mission driven, like long-term driven, right? You know, maybe to close on one question, it's kind of funny. Not answering this question directly, what top 20 coin will disappear in the next year, but what themes are going to fall out? You know, what's something of the past that's being replaced with something of the new these days? You know, that's a tough question to answer directly, but
It's
yeah,
tough.
maybe we'll go with another final question.
It's a tough one.
Any partnerships with big companies this year? Yes, we have a big announcement coming out tomorrow, actually. So pay attention to that. What about for you guys, Julian?
Yes. Hoping for an opportunity to speak about it publicly before the end of the year. But yeah.
Solid.
That seems to be the reoccurring theme.
Nice. I guess we'll end it with this one. What revelations have you come to about IoT or crypto personally? Like, what's some, you know, crypto moves so fast, right? Like, you think about things that happened a month ago seems like a year ago, right? So what's the current state of crypto in your head? You know, Bitcoin just broke all-time high. Ethereum's creeping up on their all-time high. More and more adoption and things that are outside of DeFi, you know, DAOs, investment DAOs, NFTs, NFT primitives like loots. You know, where is this all heading, Julian?
You know, we're seeing you know, financial advisors recommend to people to invest in Bitcoin and crypto. We're seeing major banks come in and start taking actions. We see Facebook positioning pretty much entirely to crypto. Like we're seeing a lot of things happening. We are at a critical point, a very critical point, and you know, at points like this, it's impossible to say what's going to happen to the market. It's probably going to spike up. It'll probably spike down. It'll probably do both in the exact same day. That's all going to happen. The one certainty is bigger money is coming into the space. More intelligent, more tech industry people are going to build in the space. So it's infrastructure. Blockchain itself is infrastructure, and it's not going away.
Yeah, for sure. You know, from IoTex's perspective, I think like the revelation that we're coming to is inspired by a lot of the DeFi and GameFi things that are happening right now, right? If you break down what's happening with GameFi, it's really interesting that you have these kind of semi-centralized apps running on Web 2 cloud infrastructure, settling like in-game points into cryptocurrency as the bridge into Web 3, right? A lot of these play-to-earn games aren't being run on blockchain smart contracts at all. It's just kind of the connection of value that's on-chain to the activities that are happening off-chain. And that eventually is going to be decentralized in a way. But that example can be used for anything. Social, right? How active you are on social can deliver you cryptocurrencies that maybe represent loyalty points. Or I think there's big travel agencies already thinking about how to convert their loyalty points into something that's more on-chain and transferable, so they don't have to operate these massive vendor marketplaces to trade for Target gift cards or hotel transfers, right? It can be all done on-chain. So I think this concept of like doing things in the digital world to earn digital assets or digital reputation is already proven. It's only going to grow from here, right? What IoT is going to do is allow us to do things in the real world to earn digital assets and digital reputation. And whatever you want to call it, is kind of like blank to earn, right? Drive to earn, walk to earn, live to earn, sweat to earn, all of these kind of things where we're connecting things we do in the real world to get digital assets or digital reputation, like the decentralized Nike running app or the decentralized Waze app where you're annotating a map and earning kind of stuff, right? So yeah, I'm really excited for this design space to open up, and we just have so many ideas. I think in the next year we'll start to see some really cool pilots and stuff with that. So, I mean, it's converging on all fronts, right? The DeFi, the GameFi, the MachineFi are all going to converge at some point. A lot of these DeFi primitives that are representing like pooling and value exchange of tokens also applies to data. So a lot of that stuff can be used as a foundation and modified to fit it better. But I don't know, we can talk all day about this, but you know, really solid conversation. I think we chatted for an hour on a lot of different stuff, you know. Want to recommend everyone definitely to, you know, once again check out Unifi Protocol, both from the liquidity pooling and liquidity mining and swapping perspective, but also their new uStake. You know, they're a top delegate on IoTeX now, offering some great promo offers and just adding value to the ecosystem. So, you know, with that, Julian, any final words for the community today? I'm sure we'll jump on sometime soon to do this again.
I'm great, guys. Thank you so much. This is such a cool conversation to have. I love these kind of more casual conversations where we can just talk about stuff. It's a lot of fun. Always a, you know, pleasure to talk with you, man. So thank you so much, everybody. Have a great week.
Yeah, for sure. We'll do more of these hangouts soon, and thanks for joining, guys. We're gonna close with some IoTeX intro videos, but we'll see you next time. We have an ecosystem hangout on October 29th with the Industry IoT Consortium. I'm blanking. I think Pocket Network, Covalent maybe, and API 3, but check in with us. Stay tuned to our Twitter. So yeah, have a great day, guys. Thanks so much.
Our world is powered by billions of smart devices that generate an incredible amount of data and value. This phenomenon is called the Internet of Things, or IoT. From smart homes and wearables to connected vehicles and renewable energy, the IoT is impacting everyone and everything. But today, the multi-trillion-dollar IoT industry is owned by centralized corporations that control our devices, mine our data, and earn huge profits with no value returned to users. IoTeX is here to change the status quo and build a future that empowers users, not corporations. We envision a world where everyday people can own and control their devices, as well as the data and value they generate. A vision we call the Internet of Trusted Things. By connecting the physical and digital worlds, IoTeX allows us to secure the data from billions of smart devices and extract value from it with next-gen DApps. Join IoTeX as we democratize access to the new machine economy and return power to the people.